Whoops. Well, hello. A little late for pens in use. I started writing some stuff down, and next thing I know, I had a lot of stuff written down, and I didn't finish filming it. So I've got the pens filmed. We just got to film the rest of it. So I guess I'm half done for next week, right? So I have my decaf coffee here because I only let myself drink one of these of caffeinated coffee a day. It's actually really warm outside. We had a rise in temperature of about 60 degrees Fahrenheit compared to the beginning of the week. Celsius right now, it's a little over 0 degrees Celsius. It's in the 30s Fahrenheit. Earlier this week, we got down into the negative 30s Fahrenheit. I'm not 100% sure what that would be in Celsius, but really cold. I kind of figure once you get it down below 0, another 10 degrees colder, you don't even really feel the difference. So I have some pens laying here, and like I said, I got my decaf coffee. Let me bring this computer. Whoops. And now who knows what we're looking at. That was ugly. Okay. So I think I just disconnected the camera by doing that. So let's try plugging it back in. Live is wonderful. Okay, lights are on the camera. Let's try. I'm not sure what I'm going to try here. Well, darn it. That'll end this real quick. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, lights are on the camera. All right, so option 2 is we go to the laptop camera and forget this thing. So let's see if I can figure out how to connect to the laptop start camera. Figured it out. Okay. So, other than being upside down suddenly, I'm back. So, apparently that whole time I just had to press the start camera button. I'm not aware that I stopped it, but whatever. It wasn't a loose cable. Don't know what happened there. So, I love live. So let's see who's here. Need some glasses so I can actually read who's here. So we have Andrew Hoffman is at 23 degrees Celsius as opposed to 37 degrees Celsius on Saturday. Well, no danger of that in the near future here. It's still winter here. 10 degrees Celsius for Lewis, hello. 13 degrees in Lisbon. Let's see. Oh, we got New York representing. South Africa, 20 degrees Celsius in South Africa. The on button. Yeah, gotta press the start camera button down below. I missed that, but got it fixed. So that will live on forever because the live streams live on forever. So, hey, great with technology. We have Scotland here, the Netherlands here, Oklahoma here, and of course, I'm here from scenic North Dakota. Looking outside the window, my sidewalk is mostly melted clear. I've been shoveling it, but what was on it is melted off, and the street is melted clear, and the snow is settling. I guess I see a bare spot. Okay, there's a bare spot where I shoveled around my little free library, and there's a bare spot I have a cedar tree out there, and right here by the house, there's a bare spot. And 10 degrees Celsius where Juicy Louise is. So, like I was saying when I started this thing, Didn't get pens in use done. I started writing down a few ideas, and next thing I know, I was like, oh, yeah, I've got several pages of stuff, and didn't actually film. But yeah, 60-degree change here. We did have some wind. That last night or the night before? Anyway, it woke me up, blew in something, and the cold weather pretty much ended on. Well, Friday was like this, Saturday was like this, and now Sunday's like this. So just we're looking toward a week like this, and possibly into the 50s. So we may lose a lot of snow during all that. So for those people who expressed a love for my snow scenes, usually this part of North Dakota, we're not done with winter. We usually get a nice blizzard in March, maybe even in April. So there's still going to be some snow. Whether I can get out in it, of course, is another question, because the reason I can drive a 25-year-old car is because I don't take it out in questionable weather. So I have a question here. Andrew Hoffman asked, does a leaf blower work on snow? So I don't own a leaf blower, so I can't tell you this from firsthand experience, but several of my neighbors do own one. And yeah, as long as it's not sticky and it's not too deep, several of them do use leaf blowers to just blow off an inch or two of snow off the driveway or their sidewalk. I'm cheap, so I don't own one, but if I were to buy something for a machine for snow, what I would get would be an actual snow blower. But I've been doing this whole walking thing, and several days, instead of walking, I got up early to shovel. It's good exercise. And the nice thing for me is I don't need it. I can just go out and shovel it clear when it's convenient for me, but for exercise, I'm getting it done more quickly. I don't drive to work, so pressure is off for me. Okay, Terry LeBeth has a 2001 Jeep Cherokee Sport, so that's only a year newer than my Toyota Camry. Probably a little better in the snow, though. The Camry is pretty good. I'm trying to think if I've ever gotten her stuck. I can't think of an occasion. But again, if the weather is questionable, I just don't take her out. So that solves all of my issues. So I do see we got 25 people here. I had written down, of course, it's all over there on the couch, but I had written down a lot of different things for pens in use. So we are going to look at some pens, unless I disconnect the camera again. 73 degrees in San Diego, California. Yeah, it's going to be a while before I see 73 degrees here. We might get a day of it in March, like a day, but for that to be long term, we're talking June. May, usually starts to warm up in May. Maybe the last week of school or last 2 weeks of school, we'll have nice weather, and all the kids will all be like, and I'll be like, hey, over here, I'm teaching. That's the time of year I sometimes close the window shades to help focus, because the teacher wants to be outside and frolicking in the nice weather also. So, yeah, 73 degrees would be pretty nice right now. It's always interesting, you get these warm temperatures, but then the wind blows and it's blowing across all that snow, and the wind is always very cold this time of year. So 2 years ago, I drove up to Drake, North Dakota to film a video about Drake and about the book burning there, because I was doing a series of videos on book bans, and they had just been walloped by a serious blizzard up there. We had snow down here, but just a couple of inches. Up there, they were measuring it in feet. And it was heavy, wet snow also. And as I'm walking around Drake, because that's what I do when I go to these small towns, I don't just drive around with my dash cam. I like to get out and walk them. I was flipping cold. I had on my Carhartt and my gloves, my hat, and everything. But man, that wind when it comes across the snow is just so much colder than the temperature. And of course, they talk about wind chill too, which is always fun. But I haven't talked about cell phone. Did I just say cell phones? I know why I said cell phones. I just remembered I need to put mine on my charger so I can actually talk to my parents tonight. So remind me to do that after I end this live stream. But as Terry Lebeth says, wind is the worst. Yeah, you can have. We're lucky here during that extreme cold. We didn't have extreme wind to go with it because the snow was very powdery. It would have drifted like crazy. And then you would have had, of course, the blowing, which makes dangers of frostbite or worse even that much greater. I don't like to travel out of town when it's extremely cold like that. When you put wind on top, you're sending out school buses and stuff. It can actually be dangerous. I have a pen pal who lives in, well, let's just say an eastern state. And he's always surprised when I mention about roads being closed here. And yeah, it's not that we don't have snow plows. It's just when the wind comes up and there's snow, they can't keep up with it. The drifting is just too much, and roads, including the interstate, get plugged. Speaking of which, I wish I could show you what's just pulled up to the stop sign outside my house right now. It is 2 snowmobiles, gobs and gobs of fuel, all loaded on the back of a pickup, and they look about ready to tip off the back. It is it is something. But I guess if I owned a snowmobile, I'd probably carry it securely because they're so expensive. So I'm guessing it's more secure than it looked. But then again, some people aren't as careful as me. Let's see. Oh, Matt W is here. Glad to have you. Sisyphus says, I was thinking of buying a Visconti Homo sapiens pen for my birthday, but yeah. So I'll tell you the truth about my Visconti Homo sapiens. I bought mine used. I have bought a couple of pens in that price range, but man, I had a hard time talking myself into it. And so finding one that was used got about half the price off, and then I felt more comfortable buying it. So, if you're paying cash, then it comes down to, is this something you want to spend cash on? Don't, do the credit card thing, but have I used up? Let's see. We have Cesar Chavaria here. Welcome from Los Angeles. Matt W asked if I've used up that Pelican Black Leader yet. Heck no. So what I have been doing is I'm trying to use up bottles of ink. Let's see where it is here. I'm almost done using my Omas Black Cup. I think we got a couple more fills in here, but the Omas Black is almost done. I was going to start on this Bookbinders Red Belly Black, but this stuff, I put it into a pen for fun. That just clogged the pen up, and I remembered, oh yeah, that's something I don't like about that. So I don't know if I'll be using it up. And so I'm probably going to use up this bottle of Delta Black next. I'm trying to work through my black inks. I have a Noodler's Heart of Darkness here, but I recently had an adventure with, what was it? Noodler's Dragon's Napalm, where it was full of slime. And I'm just like, is this bottle full of slime? I don't know. And so I'm not sure if I want to actually use that bottle of ink anymore. Oh, Adelaide, South Dakota checking in. And Andrew Hoffman points out that Viscontis have had some serious price increases lately. So I haven't really been following Visconti. I know they came out, what was it, a tobacco finish recently? So, yeah, I don't know. And then Juicy Louise says, I got a new limited edition Conway Stewart for 475 pounds. And yes, vintage Conway Stewart pens go for about a tenth of that. Yeah, that's part of why I buy more vintage pens. I can get them at a better price. Yeah, I might have to do a little work on them, and I'm fine with that. I actually have a Parker Vacuumatic that I need to put a new bladder in, and I actually bought the tools to do it with. I just need to find the time to do it. Let's see. Marie says, what do you usually do with pens that you have but don't love? Do you eventually try to sell them? Yes. Usually I'll give them a chance, but then they work their way toward, I've got like a little exile file. It's a leather pen folder that I used to store all my pens in, and I don't anymore. So the pens that I don't love end up in there. And those are the ones I know I'm going to consider selling. And I have actually sold a few recently. Usually it's because I mention on the channel that I'm thinking about selling it. I haven't figured out that magic of selling a whole bunch of pens. I know Fig Boot did it. Well, it was Fig Boot, right? Fig Boot did it recently. I think Pens and Tea did it recently, where they sold a whole bunch of pens. And I've thought about it. I guess I don't know. I get so nervous about doing that kind of thing, and it just seems like a lot of work. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I'd like to sell a few more pens. Santa Uxia says, I do not spend money on black inks, just colorful inks that will cheer me up. I work, so I use black ink a lot at work. I also like my black ink for writing, like for me, um, my fiction writing or my notes or whatever. I do use a lot of colors too, but yeah, that's where the black gets used a lot. Matt W says, the only ink I have now is Pelikan Blue Black as my main ink, and Pelikan Black is my ink I give away to people. Yeah, I can see that. I have more colors than that. I like the variety of colors that you can get with ink. I just am trying to reduce the number of inks bottles that I have. So, I've been focusing on a few bottles at a time. Here's my bottle of Lee Dete that's getting down. This is my brown ink. I have a bottle of Smoky Quartz to work on. Here's my Lamy Turquoise. I'm getting this down. I just used up a bottle of Pelikan Violet ink, and now I'm on a bottle of Dea Trementis Violet ink. And what else is up here? Oh, here's this has been slow to go down, but a bottle of Dea Trementis Red Roses. And I don't know. I got a couple others up there. So the inks up there are what I'm focusing on using up. Let's see. Yes, P and T. I just remembered that sometimes the chat doesn't show. It's been a while since I did a live stream. So Matt W says sold a lot of pens recently, and mainly just using Pilot Custom 74s. Yeah, Pilot Custom 74 is a good pen. Andrew Hoffman says, I'm looking at a Pelikan M800. Ooh, so I've never used one, so hopefully somebody else can fill him in. Be fun to try. My thing that I'd like right now, Pelikan-wise, I have a Pelikan M1000. In fact, I'm trying to film a video on it, a revisit, because it's a survivor pen. And it has a medium nib in it, and I'd really love to put a fine in it. And so far, I haven't been able to talk myself around the price of the nib. So, I mean, I got the pen at a good price, and the nibs are costing about what I paid for that pen. So it's just like, maybe not. I should feel freer now to be willing to spend money because this house is paid for, but it's like now that it's paid for, I want to build up my savings and I want to put a new, I want to do some work on the house. I be buying a new car in a couple of years, and all kinds of things that just not yet, not yet, not yet. When I click on these, I can actually read them without my glasses when I put them on screen with me. So Aurora Blue Black is worth a try if you like blue black. Yeah, I have a bottle I want to use up. It's in my drawer over there. My favorite blue black is actually the Parker Blue Black, but I like the color of the Pilot Blue Black, but it's not as well behaved. Yeah, you always like, oh, I wish I still had that pen. I didn't really care for my Lamy Dialogue 3, but I've had a few moments when I've said, oh, I wish I still had that pen. I thought about doing another video on retractable pens. And I'm like, oh, yeah, and I sold one of my major ones. That'd be a good one to put in that video. So now it's like, do I want to do that video or not? Yeah, that's kind of how I am. The black ink I go through fairly quickly, but the other colors hang around, which is why I'm just limiting myself to a few bottles at a time and going through them, and I'm making faster progress that way. I kind of get sick of them, but it is faster progress, and it's like a victory when, yeah, another bottle bites the dust. Okay. I have only ever owned. No, I lie. I owned two bottles of Monteverde. I used to have a bottle of Monteverde Turquoise, which they discontinued. I think they have a new version, but it goes by a different name. And then I have, was it up here? I had it in my hands recently. Oh, maybe not. I want to say I have a bottle of like Canyon Rust or something. Oh yeah, it's behind me, right behind me. It's a bottle of Monteverde Canyon Rust that I want to start using up. Okay. Yeah, and I use my fountain pens everywhere, so who knows? I can retire in 10 or 11 years, so who knows what will happen then? Who knows if the economy then will let me retire? Welcome, Wendy Sue. So that is a really good question. There's a lot of different factors to it. It could be as simple as, well, I put the wrong pen into that ink and spread something nasty to it. Different brands, I'm told, aren't, will last longer than others. Private Reserve used to be one that I would hear about stuff in the bottle a lot. I haven't been hearing that lately. I've experienced it. That's one of my stuff in bottle experiences is with a bottle of Private Reserve. The Noodlers was kind of a shock, and now I'm nervous about this bottle. So, eventually it happens. But the ink, like, you're not going to want to drink ink or taste it. There's a lot of nasty stuff in ink that you really don't want to ingest, and some of it is fungicides, to keep mold and other fungi from living in your ink. So I suppose it would depend on where it's stored and how it's stored. These behind me on the shelf here are in the box. These up here, I forgot about that. So whenever I'm connected to an Apple, of course it's not going to do it now. When I'm connected to an Apple computer, yeah, there we go. I can do gestures. I forget, and it always surprises me when I do it by accident like that. But anyway, yeah, so a bottle of ink can last it depends. There's so many factors there. I know people who collect and use vintage bottles of ink from the 40s. Not me, but people do it. So, yeah, the Pelikan M200 is a good pen. It's nice. It's a nice entry level. The steel nib is very nice. And of course, it's a well-made pen. And yeah, Quink is definitely underrated. It's not available in a lot of colors. You never hear people talk about it, but it's a good, reliable ink. It behaves well on low quality paper. I like it. Who knows, after I use up my liter of Pelikan Black, maybe I'll switch to Parker. Who knows if I'll ever use up my liter of Pelikan Black, but that's another story. Oh yeah, I forgot the blue black has some iron gold. I do actually have a bottle of the blue black, so I don't know. When I use up something up here, I might have to get that out. Ooh. So I've never heard of Monteverde Raven Noir, but I'm assuming it's black. Califolio, I have always been told, is a good ink for vintage. They have, not the most exciting colors, but they've got a good variety of colors. A few of them I really like the Granat, I really like because it looks a lot like Monte Grappa Bordeaux, which is a discontinued ink. Not a perfect match, but a decent match. And yeah, the Bach and Yovo do seem to be appearing more on the Chinese pens from what I've been seeing. I've bought a couple. I bought that the triangular one I just reviewed recently. I actually bought one of their retractables because I want to experiment with it. I don't think they had Bach or Yovo nibs on them, but these are nib makers that supply pens to a lot of manufacturers for a reason. Okay. I think I liked my Pelikan M200. I gave it to somebody that I like, so I gave it to them because I liked them. Otherwise, I would still have the pen. I was pleased with it. I was very happy using it. Oh, and yeah, here's somebody else who prefers it to the M600. I've never used an M600. I used to own an M800, and I sold it. I still own my M1000. I like it a lot. And yeah, they come in several nib sizes, I guess. Do I have an opinion on Noodlers or Nathan? I think Nathan is really good at stirring up unneeded controversy. I don't think he always means to, but sometimes he actually revels in it, as far as what I can see. Recently, I know he went through renaming a bunch of his inks. Some of it was because inks had these names that were, or labels that were full of anti-Semitic symbolism. Some of them were, let's see. Some of them had names that were controversial. So, he's renamed them. Like Apache Sunset is now Southwest Sunset, which I kind of like the name Apache Sunset, but, you are appropriating a tribe, of people and you're using it to represent your product. Something like Black Swan and English Rose is pretty harmless, although English, but supposedly we're referring to a flower. I'm not quite sure where the name comes from. I'm trying to think of other names he changed. If we appropriated a town like Lexington Gray, which I know is one of his grays. I've never used it, but I know it is one. Are we appropriating the town of Lexington? But then on the other hand, that's not exactly a marginalized group. I liked the name Navajo Turquoise, but again, we're appropriating a name. So I think some of them were offensive, especially with the anti-Semitic stuff. Perhaps he went too far in correcting for it. But on the other hand, he courts controversy. He has liked it. When you had retailers saying, no, actually, we're not going to sell your product unless you make these changes, that's a sign you may have gone too far. Free market, he can do what he wants, but if you want people to buy your product, you have to be conscious of it. That's why I think people who watch me know I have political opinions and stuff, but I try not to be too political, like, hey, don't vote for this one during the election. I try to steer away from it. Why borrow controversy when you don't need it? And that's what he does. Okay, glad to have you here, Santa Uxia. Hope I pronounced that right. Okay, see now Sajad Hussein is saying that the M200 is a stiff nib. I thought for a steel nib, I thought it was quite flexible, but that was my example. So, yeah, that's a fair assessment. Yeah, but like I said, he also courts that controversy. That was part of his problem with what was it, Bay State Blue for a while. Yeah, and that's the thing. Are we appropriating or honoring? And where is that line? I used to work for a school district where the mascot was the Sioux, not a Native American school district. I think we had one Native American student in the school. We had, the Sioux used to live in that area, but it was not, so are we honoring the Sioux? They never made it disrespectful or anything. On the other hand, see if I remember which one it was, either UND or NDSU, one of the two big colleges in North Dakota, was also called the Sioux, and the NCAA said, hey, you got to change your mascot. And that was a whole big controversy. It's still a big controversy, even though they have changed their mascot. I think it was UND, which is the University of North Dakota. I'm not real sure what their mascot is now. I don't really care. I don't. College sports, who cares? And yeah, marketing, people are talking about noodlers. If they're talking about the offensive labels, hey, at least they're talking about them. How often do people talk about Parker Inc? Not very often. So, yeah, don't borrow trouble. And that's just what I didn't get and ever get about him. Some of it is honoring history. Like I've got a bottle here. It's not a very good ink, but a bottle of Noodlers that I want to ink up that's, borrowing the whaling history. And I think that's a good homage. And, because especially where he lives, the whaling industry was a bigger part than it ever was here in North Dakota. I think that's a nice homage. On the other hand, sometimes you're misrepresenting. Okay, and here is somebody else saying that the M200 is a stiff nib. So I don't own the pen anymore, but I'm going to have to go back and look at my old video, see if it's stiff or not. Okay, yeah, when you court controversy, you're going to get burned. Sometimes it's worth standing up for it. Sometimes it isn't. And that's a judgment we all have to make. I don't believe in hiding my beliefs and politics and so on, but on the other hand, I don't need to wear it on my sleeve either. Surprisingly, the school is still the Sioux. I worked there. I was hired there in fall of 1999, and they are still the Sioux. It amazes me, but they are still the Sioux. Yeah, and those names are pretty harmless. I didn't like Golden Brown. Golden Brown was nice when you first put it in the pen, but I found that the longer it sat in the pen, the weirder and weirder the color got. So I quit using it. You're welcome. Okay, so Pelican steel nib should normally stiff. And yeah, that's been my experience. Like I had a Pelican Stola with a stiff nib. I have a Pelican Twist with a stiff nib. I just did another Pelican recently. Name isn't coming to me, but also with a stiff nib. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to go back and watch my video. I could be remembering wrong. It's been a lot of years since I gave this pen away as a gift. Honestly, I haven't bought Noodlers in years, but I haven't bought any ink in years. Let's be fair. I'm trying to use up ink, not add to the collection. But as far as colors I like, I like their Matahari's Cordial. I really like the Black Swan and Australian Roses, sorry. But one of the things with Noodlers that I discovered I don't like is that they are inconsistent from bottle to bottle. And that's another thing that Nathan Tardif sees as a feature, not a bug. But I definitely see it as a bug. If I buy a bottle of ink, I want to know what I'm getting, not that, well, it'll be approximately this color. Sometimes, he gets surprised by it. Like he got surprised by it a number of years ago with the Black Swan and Australian Roses. And it was because his supplier had changed a dye and he didn't know that. Same time, I just thought, but you don't do quality control or checks, but then that's the weakness of being a one-man show, is maybe you can't do the checks that a larger company would do. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't see settling out with mine. It's just that how it would turn into a weird color after being in the pen for a while. I'll tell you, my beloved Matahari's Cordial does settle out. Not sure why, what's in it, but I don't know why an ink would settle unless it's one of those sparkly inks. Okay, yeah, Noodler's Blacks. I always liked the plain old Noodler's Black. I used to use that all the time until I found some of my pens that just wouldn't work with because it was too thick or whatever. You'd get a whole bunch of air bubbles collect at the top of the feed, then it couldn't go through the pen, and you're like, well, now what? So you're having to shake the pen every so often, and it wasn't just like one or two pens, it was a lot of my pens. So I moved away from it. I have had this Heart of Darkness for a lot of years. I liked it. I didn't care for it a lot because it was more feathery than the Noodler's Black. And now I'm worried if there's stuff in the bottle. So I switched to Lamy Black. I did a video on black inks a number of years ago. I switched to Lamy Black, and then for God only knows why, I bought a liter of Pelican Black. So I was trying to use that up, but then the last few years I've been going back and trying to use up other bottles of ink, use up all my black ink and get down to just Pelican Black and spend forever using that up. Do I have any TWSBI pens? At the moment, I only own one TWSBI. I own a TWSBI Draco. I like it a lot. Every time I show it on the channel, people always say that its nib looks really small, but I like it. My experience with TWSBI has varied. I have had good ones. A lot of my experience was that their nibs were on the drier side, so I didn't care for that. I used to have a metal one, an aluminum, it was orange or bronze or something colored. That was a very good writer, actually. That's one of the pens I've sold. Early in the day, of course, TWSBI had the cracking problem, which I don't hear about it too much anymore, so I'm guessing must be largely fixed. I've had a few comments saying, no, it's not fixed, but I don't know. No personal experience. So yeah, not a lot of TWSBIs. Yeah, and the Noodler's pens, I think you know what you're getting when you buy something at that price. He actually sells them as tinkerer's pens. I learned a lot about how fountain pens work from Noodler's pens. But other than buying a Noodler's, not Charlie, what was it called? Well, I can't remember. It was black and it has the retractable nib, and I forgot its name off the top of my head. But anyway, other than buying that because of curiosity, safety pen, there it is. Other than buying that safety pen, I haven't really bought any Noodler's pens. I have a very nice stipula nib in a Noodler's pen. I have a couple Noodler's pens laying around waiting for a home. Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes people just gang up, and sometimes there's reason for it. Again, if you're courting controversy, don't be surprised when it finds you. Yeah, I use the Pilot Justice in the same way, soft for most of the time. I when I do math with it, I like it to be hard. I don't know why, I just do. Yeah, I do more soft than hard, but anyway. Oh, Montreal, Canada here. Welcome. Yeah, public figures do get public sentiment. That's the danger when you put too much of yourself out there. That's what I said about wearing it on your sleeve. I don't believe in hiding or lying or anything, but at the same time, does everybody need to know your view on everything? Probably not. I try to avoid those people that are always trying to talk politics because they don't care what you think. Yeah, a lot of people love TWSBIs. I just I switched more in the vintage direction and haven't really looked back. Okay, and we have a whole argument here about Noodlers, I think. And somebody jumping in. Oh, Boston safe. There we go. I said Noodler safety, didn't I? I forgot the Boston part of it because he is from Massachusetts. So yeah, I bought that pen because I have looked at a few safety pens online, vintage ones, and I said, "Oh hell no," because all the seals you have to repair, or if they are repaired, they're really ungodly expensive. So this is my way to get one. This is interesting too, because I just don't have wide experience. And that's one of the reasons I hesitate to just bash a brand, because maybe I got the bad one, or maybe I got the one good one. I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion on Visconti. I have had this discussion with a couple of pen reviewers, one of whom has a lot of Visconti pens. You can probably guess who he is. But, what he said is that the Visconti, his experience is the Visconti is quite reliable. So, I'd like to see hard numbers on it. I've heard from one or two retailers, I've heard different things. I'm not one of those pen people that's in close contact with retailers, so I always hear this secondhand. But from some retailers, they'll say, "Oh no," and others will say, "Yeah, these are the reputation's undeserved." And I don't know firsthand, so I try not to get involved with the whole discussion. It's just this Visconti pen is good, and that's where I try to leave it because what else you do? So yeah, safety pens are interesting. That's actually why this Whaleman Sepia is out, is I want to try doing that in safety pen again, even though it went really badly before. But I might put it in my Lamy ABC instead because it actually behaves very well in that pen. Okay, so we have, Berkeley, California. Yeah, I'm trying to do one live stream a month. This was my last chance to do one this month, so here I am. Next month should be better. I'm hoping to one of these Sundays do an interview with somebody. I have a couple of people. I just need to talk to them and say, "Hey, you want to do this?" And this platform lends itself very well to it because I can send a magical link and have somebody just appear in my stream. Okay, so you got a Geha with a converter. Was it a Geha converter? Because my most exciting recent discovery, where is it? Here we go. I just tried it. I've been doing it for a couple weeks now. I used a platinum converter in this Geha Champion. And I was so surprised at how well it fit because I had never heard of that. All I had ever heard was that the Geha, you can use cross converters if you do some trimming on them. And here the platinum fits perfectly in this pen. And I've never seen a Geha converter for sale. I'm sorry. That's quite a vivid description. I had Watson says, I had a Noodler's triple tail. It smelled of a mixture of vomit and manure. I tried it for a week, but then had to pass it to my brother, who is an artist with a foretaste of smell. Yeah, some of the Noodlers, he uses, I can't remember its name off the top of my head, but some of his pens, he uses a plastic that, let's say, has a very distinctive smell. And when you first get them, it has to off gas for a while, and then it becomes easier to stand. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. He does have some acrylic pens and he has some ebonite pens, which don't have that, but they're also more expensive. Yeah, the TWSBI, I just haven't been doing anything that's really got me excited. There was I think it was a converter, something you was push button. It wasn't a retractable pen. It was something push buttony that I was curious about for a while, but then I never bought it. Yeah, no worries. There's this is what happens if you ever bring up Noodlers. It can be quite a topic. I know some of the forums, fountain pen forums, have had to say, no, let's not discuss Noodlers because they turn into quite active discussions, shall we say. Okay, now Santini. I have heard of Santini, but I've never seen one of their pens, so I can't say much about it. Okay, so is this with the Santini or the Noodler's safety pen that he was sent. I guess, I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't watch every video that comes out. I pick and choose if I have time or if I'm interested. And if I'm not interested, I may miss it. Then a couple years later, suddenly I'm interested and I go find it. That is true. Safety pens are good for some of the more interesting inks that are out there that you wouldn't put in a normal fountain pen. Yeah, it actually, I was looking at a Montblanc Carrera recently. I decided it was too high priced for me. It was vintage, of course, but I was looking, oops, excuse me, maybe getting hiccups here. I was looking at it, but decided not to buy it. Yeah, it's attractive. It's a student pen. Now that I know this trick with the converters, I'm going to buy a couple more platinum converters and put some of these Gehas that I don't use very much into more regular rotation, because now I don't have to refill cartridges with syringes. Yes, Doug Rathbun did a video yesterday about this. I'm not sure which birthday it is, but happy birthday, Stephen Brown, on the off chance you happen to see this. What Doug Rathbun did is he went through, I don't know just how long Stephen Brown's been doing this. The fact that I'm here is largely due to Stephen Brown. I've had this channel since 2007, but well, somewhere in my notes I have written down when I first started doing fountain pens with a Noodler's pen, by the way. It was a Noodler's Nippon set. Actually, I'm going to go look real quick. Let me grab it, so just talk amongst yourselves. I bought these legal pads because I was enjoying writing on them so much. And so one pack of legal pads came in all kinds of fun colors. I'm right now using the pink color. Let's see. Okay, so my very first fountain pen related video was filmed May 27th, 2013. It was an entry into a Noodler's contest. He wanted a video of his inks in use, so I made a video making a picture showing a bunch of different inks that I owned. I won. I won only because I entered, because it was awful. But everybody who entered won prizes. And so on July 3rd, 2014, I did my very first pen review, which was a prototype Noodler's Nippon set. It did quite well, even though it was very badly done, because nobody had their hands on a Noodler's Nippon set yet. So that's where I got my start reviewing fountain pens and in this fountain pen world. And surprisingly, was this 11 years later? Yeah, close to 11 years later, I'm still doing videos on fountain pens. I branched out a bit. I do some North Dakota stuff. I'm doing more vintage pens now. I do some writing type stuff. I don't want to just be reviewing a pen every week, because I don't buy a pen every week. I want to do some other stuff. And I've enjoyed revisiting pens. So anyway, that was my long way. I got off topic there. So anyway, Doug Rathbun did a very nice tribute to SBRE Brown. He's what got a lot of us going. He did a video. This is what convinced me to keep going, because I did the Noodler's Nippon set one that I wasn't going to do anymore. But he did a video about why aren't you doing pen reviews? And I thought, okay, and here I am. 2025, still doing them. Yeah, I was tempted by it, but I just, like I said earlier, No longer making house payments, so I've got all that. It's like I got that much of a house payment's worth of raise every month, and it's gotten even harder to talk myself into spending money now. So I turned down my chance to buy one, but who knows? Maybe in the future. Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe Geha had a converter. Don't know. I've never seen one for sale. Okay, and Sajad Hussein says Santini make great pens, which I'll have to take your word for it. I know absolutely nothing about them. I was on a quiz show with Apple Boom Pen a year or two ago, and almost all the questions were about new pens that were for sale. I did awful. I was awful because I knew nothing. And yeah, I'm just out of touch. Don't come to the Wasky Squirrel channel to find stuff on new pens. Occasionally I'll jump on a bandwagon, but mostly you don't see them here. It is exciting, that just recently I hit 7,000 subscribers. I'm probably the slowest growing fountain pen channel out there, but hey, 7,000 subscribers for an obscure guy in rural North Dakota. I'm happy with that. Okay. Yeah, I've never tried the Visconti inks. I looked at them a couple of times because their bottles are kind of cool looking. But what I don't like with their bottles is they look like they're ready to just boop, tip over. So I've never bought one. And now I have more ink than God, so why would I buy more fountain pen ink? I'm trying to get rid of it, not get more. Oh, I have never written with one of those. I knew that Papermate used to make fountain pens, but I thought they were all disposable fountain pens. So that's interesting. And okay, yeah, gold is getting more expensive, and yeah, 14 karat means there's less gold in it. I don't know. I might have to look up Santini just to see what they are. A little homework for after I get this video done. My Nippon set, I would agree with you. Mine's temperamental also. I mostly ink it up in the spring. What I do is when seniors graduate, if they give me a graduation announcement, I will write a letter to them, and I do a lot of photography around the school, so I'll try to link to a gallery of pictures of them that I've taken through the years. So I'll put a link to that gallery in the letter. And usually what I do is I ink up one of my sparkly inks and use the Noodler's Nippon set to write the letters. So that's when it gets used the most, is in the spring. But yeah, it's temperamental sometimes, and some springs I'm just like, nope, we're going to use a different pen, because it gets frustrating. That's why I actually started doing revisits. Some people are just like, well, if your opinion hasn't changed, why bother? But one of my things with when I was seeing fountain pen reviews was they're unboxing it. They give you their impression right then, and you think, but did you like it long term? When you put a different ink in it, did your opinion change? And they didn't keep them long enough to really answer that. I don't get review models from any company because I don't have a relationship with any retailer. So any pens you see on here are my own pens that I bought with my own money. I've been given a few over the years, but mostly I bought them. And so I started doing the revisits to give that long-term, hey, 5 years later, this is what I think type of video. So I'm glad to hear you're getting value in that. And Yeah, here's somebody else who likes my revisits. Oh, I might have to look for that video. Yeah, Stephen Brown is. I've never met the man. I was on the same quiz show with him, the Apple Boom Pen, and one where I had a humiliating loss, but he's always seemed very kind. He knows the world I live in because he lives in Canada, to my north somewhere, and yeah, I've always liked him. He seems personable enough, and he's definitely done a lot for the fountain pen community. He is the original reviewer, and he's still doing it. And some of my notes here that I was writing instead of filming pens in use was mentioning about some of these channels like him that are very long lived and just how simple their setup is. You know, he doesn't have elaborate lights or cameras or anything. I think he's advanced beyond just the single cell phone like he used to do, but very basic cinematography. And yeah, that way he doesn't get tired of editing, doesn't spend a lot of time editing, and doesn't get burned out on doing this. And he has done a lot of videos over the years on a lot of topics. You know, he's done some psychology stuff, his Stoicism series, different fountain pens. He's done a little vintage, not a lot of vintage. Trying to think what else. I don't think he's done much paper. He used to do some videos where he'd take pens apart, but I haven't seen those in a long time. And just videos about topics in the hobby, like Grail pens and whatever. Okay. Yeah, I just don't know much about Visconti inks. Yeah, we're both growing slowly. But congratulations on also reaching 7,000 subscribers. What was that? The last new pen I bought, it's actually laying here. I was going to put some pens on screen. I might have to do that yet, but it is my Rytec, and not, very expensive pen, but surprisingly likable pen. So I'm slowly working my way through cartridges on it. But that is actually the last new pen I bought. The last more pricey pen I bought would have been a Kaweco Sport piston filler. Not the aluminum, the lower cost plastic one, which I also liked. Okay, was this not working here? There we go. Oh, that might be why I've never heard of Santini. There was who was it? Nautilus, Narwhal, something like that. Anyway, I saw they recently came out with a retractable fountain pen, and one of their things was it didn't have a knock on it. Like when I say knock, I mean this part. But from what I could see on it, it was just like the whole top would go in and out like as a knock, and it was just designed like this. So whatever. Okay. Well, enjoy your lunch, and yeah, I probably should wrap this up soon too. But spring is a long way off here, but 32 degrees Fahrenheit / 0 degrees Celsius today was a nice change from earlier in the week. Yes. That's one thing I've appreciated is I find that my subscribers and the people that comment regularly, and a lot of them are here today, are very kind. They have useful things to say. And I'm still small enough I can respond to all my comments, even if it takes a couple of days for me to do it. So, yeah, we're in a good pen community. Okay, good. Another one that likes my revisits. Okay, so if even ODE likes Santini, I might have to take a look at them. Okay, I've never used Conklin ink, but so I guess hopefully somebody here has a comment. Okay, so David Watson asked a really interesting question. So there's a lot of nuance to this question. What's my favorite subject to teach? So there's a lot to that. One of the things I've discovered late in my career is I actually enjoy teaching coding, computer programming. I do it in in several of my STEM classes, and every so often I get to teach a computer programming course. I really enjoy that. I've wondered if I had my life to do over, maybe I would have become a computer programming teacher instead of a physics teacher. My degree is in physics. I have taken a lot of coursework in mathematics, so I can also teach math at any level. I can teach by any science. There are some science courses on my license that I just look at them and go, really? Like, I can teach oceanography. I can teach etymology. I have seen the ocean. I know what bugs are. Somehow that qualifies me to teach those subjects, I guess. But let's see, as far as a favorite, I really enjoy teaching physics. But to be honest, I have a lot more fun with freshman physical science, which is kind of a mix of physics and chemistry. It's at a lower level. It's so you don't get as lost in the math as you do with a physics class. Now, as far as age groups, since I am currently teaching the age groups in question, I better be careful. But I will say I don't enjoy a lot of immaturity. So that makes it more of a struggle with younger kids. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes the younger kids, they'll laugh at your jokes, whereas the older ones are, I'm too cool for this. But so you have to find your happy place, I guess. But as far as subject, I'd say probably physical science or else the computer programming. Yeah, having students that want to learn. So my elective classes, I'm more likely to have that. Of course, this is a small school and it's the United States. So you get people even in elective classes that don't want to be there. Like, why do I have to take this? I don't know. Why did you take it? Well, I need it for college. Okay. So there you go. That's why you have to take it. What am I supposed to say? But yeah, I'd say computer programming or physical science just because of the mix, and you get to do the fun stuff there. Okay, yeah, I have clearly missed out on this whole Santini thing, so gonna have to look them up. Okay, and even more history about Santini. So wow. And actually, I own exactly one Conklin pen. So it was going to be in pens in use this week. It's this Conklin word gauge. The nib is okay. No great shakes. I have owned one or two other Conklin pens in the past. Never owned very many. Just not a brand I bought. Boy, we didn't do much with pens this week, did we? I don't have the trouble Hemingway Jones does switching cameras because that's the same camera. I just tip it down. But after losing connection with the camera at the start of this live stream, I'm kind of scared to reset everything and take a look at my pens. Okay. Oh, so that's good to know. Yeah, it was a trapdoor pen. I thought it looked interesting, but I looked at it and I was on, I think Fountain Pen Hospital was where I was looking at it. And then I said, eh. So maybe it's just as well. I will say this Rytech, this cheap plastic retractable Rytech, is quite a good trapdoor. This can sit for days on end, and as soon as I pick it up, it's writing again. So I'm even more impressed with it than I was during my video on it. Yeah, computer science, that's something I wish I would have done too. But like I said, well, I didn't say this, but I majored in physics. I took some computer classes along the way. I took a lot of math electives. I took assembler language as as an elective. I mean, what the hell is wrong with me? But when I graduated college in fall of 1998, it's not like schools had thriving computer science programs. So getting that as a teaching career just wasn't an option back then. But I do enjoy it. To keep it on my license, I try to take a certain number of computer science courses or cybersecurity, because apparently it all works for keeping it on my license. What are the easy to find brands in North Dakota? It's North Dakota. So you're talking probably a big box retailer. Like, well, we don't have a Staples in Bismarck anymore. There is an Office Depot or Office Max, one or the other, still in Bismarck. But basically your Cross Pens, probably Parker. You don't find much. In Fargo, North Dakota, there is a store. It's called Zanbros, where they, among other things, because they don't sell just pens, but they do sell pens there. There you'll find like Lamy Safaris. And I bought my very first Parker, not Vector, Parker. Well, shoot, Sonnet. My very first Parker Sonnet there. But yeah, there's not a big thriving fountain pen industry here in North Dakota, so almost all of my buy online. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, coding, one of the things with computer science professions is the job security isn't there. You know, we had a governor here. He's now, what's his new position? Governor Doug Burgum. Anyway, he is now Secretary of the Interior. I think that's right. Anyway, in the new administration. And but he had a big push for getting more computer science into the schools. He's why schools all over the state are scrambling to figure out how to get a full credit of cybersecurity and computer science in, with no teacher certified to teach it. So he pushed it a lot because he was actually ran a big technology computer science company in Fargo before he became governor, sold it to Microsoft for quite a fortune. And now Microsoft has a Fargo campus, which is quite a place if you ever get the chance to tour it. But yeah, he pushed for a lot of the computer science, cybersecurity stuff. So I will be interested to see, now that he's no longer governor, what happens with that. You know, that aside from the Microsoft campus in Fargo, I'm not sure how many computer science jobs there are around North Dakota. I mean, I'm sure the oil companies have a few, maybe a larger hospital does, but I don't know if there's a lot of demand for it around this state. So part of the attraction of teaching for me was job security. I know what my hours are. If I'm putting in extra hours, it's by choice, usually. Okay, not always, but we don't need to go into that. and I know my job is safe. There is that thing where, you're a new teacher and the enrollment's dropping, like, oh, we're going to have to let you go. That does happen. In this state, when I started teaching in this state, we had a number of schools were closing their doors just because they didn't have enough students. Most of those school districts have now closed their doors, and the ones that are still open are going to survive. There's a few that could go, and the teacher shortage that we have may force a few more to close. But overall, I'm not worried about my job. Doge isn't going to come after me because, well, what do you do without a science teacher? So, but at the same time, it's a lot. The pay isn't as good as computer science could be. But then I read stories about, well, we're going to lay you off to hire somebody else for less money. And oh, by the way, before you're laid off, could you train your replacement? That'd be great. Thanks. I've read a lot of that in the computer science world, and it scares me. I don't know that I'd want to get into that. But then I have a former student who's working in computer science for an oil company up in Williston, North Dakota right now. And in his free time, he teaches or he coaches wrestling. I think it was Williston, but it might be somewhere else. So I have a student working I have several students working in the computer science field. So it happens. Yeah, there's something about that word gauge pen that just, I saw it and I just like fell in lust and I had to have it. And I don't ink it up real often, but I do ink it up and I enjoy it every time I ink it up. So they did something right with it. Yeah, assembler. It was interesting how you have to look at computer memory and all the things you really had to look at. Because, if you're learning another language, like I took Pascal in college, I was required to take Pascal. I mean, who uses Pascal professionally? But there you went. I had to take it. As writing programs that could do things in Pascal and assembler, it was like these really, really basic programs with all kinds of code just to do really super basic operations because you're really working at the most fundamental level of the computer. And yeah, I came to understand a lot about computers and why they act the way they do because of that assembler class that I probably wouldn't have understood otherwise. I've taken MATLAB, which is sort of a coding language. I've done Python. In fact, I teach Python. I teach C, JavaScript. Those are the three that I teach right now: C, JavaScript, and Python, depending on what course I'm teaching. But never taught assembler. I can't just imagine teaching that at the high school level. Yeah, I'm the same way. It's 90 miles to the nearest Walmart. So I don't get out much. I have not actually been out of this town since November. I really need to get out. Had the chance this weekend, and I was just like, but 3 hours in the car to get there and back. And that's just to go to Dickinson, which is not that great anymore. So I decided to stay home. Oh, I'm so sad. Yeah, that's another computer science career. There is a lot of surprising careers with it that people don't even think of, like what actually a database administrator would do. A lot of people just have no idea that career is even a thing. But yeah, you're right. Mostly they're in the bigger cities. Williston, North Dakota is not a big city, but there's a lot of the oil companies are up there because it's bigger. I have never had trouble with my jotter drying out. So I don't know if that hole is just, I know the hole is probably there so I can pull the cap off the pen without sucking ink out of the nib. But yeah, somehow must keep it from drying out. You'll see a lot of vintage pens. Let's see if I got one here. Oh, maybe if I put on my glasses, I can see it. Anyway, a lot of vintage pens will have a hole drilled in the cap. Yeah. So like this Geha Boy, I don't know if you can see it here. Probably not. Yeah. Well, we're out of luck. There we go. So it's slightly out of focus, but you can see the hole drilled in the cap there too. So I think the Parker is just designed so that it doesn't dry out. Yeah, I think at the local public school level, I'm safe, especially my school. I mean, you close my school right now covers a land area bigger than the state of Rhode Island, and we are probably about to grow by another 300 or so square miles in the next year because a neighboring school district is going to be forced to close its doors. Um, my job security is pretty safe. Um, Plus, I've been here for a long time, so it's not like I'm going to be the first one let go. And they really can't eliminate my position unless we go all creationist or something, which will not court controversy today. I do have been thinking about a video about that, one of those driving videos, but not today. Yeah, Python was surprising. It's a newer language, but I can see why it has become so popular. And yeah, those base languages do help a lot of the others make sense. I don't know why in college they taught us Pascal. I guess that was a fad then for teaching programming because it was supposed to teach all the fundamental. It was a language designed to teach coding, but why not teach an actual language people use? A lot of my engineering friends would take a class on Fortran. And I want to say there was a COBOL class back then too. Yeah, that's a brand. I actually have a very complimentary video that I filmed on that brand. I have a very small pen from that brand. I mean, and a lot of my complaint has to do with its size, but so I'll have to give that brand another chance, maybe with a different pen. And yes, job security. When you do have more job security, a lot of those jobs maybe don't pay as well. That was the whole idea behind government work. That was the trade-off that, okay, we're going to take the lower pay, but the trade-off is you've got more job security. And right now that's proving not to be the case. Like I said, I have about 11 years left because I can retire when I'm 60. Now, will I retire when I'm 60? Ask me when I'm 60. But I can retire when I'm 60. My retirement investments are doing quite well. I've got Roth IRA, I've got my 403B, I have my state teacher's pension. Theoretically, I'll have Social Security when I get to be 67. I'm in a pretty good position financially. And now that I'm not doing house payments, I might bump up how much I put into my Roth IRA. But first, I want to goose up my emergency fund and have like my dream is to have a year's worth of expenses. So if I do get fired, I can live for a year without having a job. So anyway, that's getting into not the topic. Okay, thank you. That explains the whole. Yeah, I think it's just there to prevent suction when you uncap the pen. I have never learned Fortran. Um, I don't feel like I missed out on anything either, but I grew up, I actually enjoyed coding as a kid. We had a Texas Instrument, a TI 99 4A, and I learned how to code in BASIC on it, and then extended BASIC. And then at school, we had a TRS 80 computer lab. So I learned, it was pretty easy to transfer to their version of BASIC, where you store all your programs on a tape cassette, or later on we got floppy drives. But why am I talking about this? Don't know. Oh. Okay, I don't know much about the Parker IM, but I did recently see a Parker I was thinking about, so maybe I'll see if it's an IM. Didn't buy it. Yeah, and computer work is very specialized. Running out of intelligent things to say. I was trying to think of some examples and like, maybe better not say that. Yeah, I don't feel like I missed out on anything with Fortran. The main thing you learn with coding, people always think, well, coding is math. Well, no, it's actually communication, because you have to communicate absolutely clearly. We can't do this when we're going to kind of assume we know what you mean. You got to be clear. Python, right now we're making some functions and things, but to make the coding easier, and you still got to get it right. You got to get your capitals and lower cases, but the thing is, you got to tell it exactly what you want it to do, which is a communication thing, not a math thing. Okay, good to know. Yeah, the computer hardware is a totally different deal, and I've done a little bit of work on computers. I actually, so now we're off of fountain pens for a while. For a number of years, I had a Linux computer lab in my classroom. What I did is I took all the junk machines, the ones that weren't being used anymore. I had a server that was running Linux, and then all of these other computers around the classroom would work kind of like thin clients, like on the old mainframes, where all the computing is happening on this one good computer. But they were all just different terminals. So it's called LTSP if anybody wants to look it up. Anyway, so I could run a Linux computer lab. Now, this is back before our school went to one-to-one computers. It died a horrible death during a thunderstorm because there was a lightning strike that took out that main server. That was all she wrote. There was no fixing that. Definitely a hardware issue there. So many hardware issues and melted parts that I'm just like, do I start from scratch again? We were starting to get a few laptops then, so that's what I gambled on. And so for a few years, we just had laptops we would check out, and then we went to this one-to-one thing. I don't know that I'm 100% a fan of one-to-one computing, but sure makes some things easier. I have to get into that one of these days. Yes. I'm teaching geometry right now, and a lot of kids don't like proofs, but trying to explain that what you're doing is you're learning how to reason through things, think through steps, think up justifications. Because we were talking about wearing your politics on your sleeve earlier. One of the reasons I hate those kinds of discussions is so much of it is just opinion and not backed up by fact. And when you can't even agree on basic facts, what's the point? And that's what I like about geometric proofs and other kinds of proofs is why? Oh, here's the reason. It's good to learn to think that way. Yeah, the vector XL is one that impresses me. Sorry, so we tapped into one of my other passions, but I do need to close this up because I got other things that need to do yet this afternoon. Okay, I'm not sure what that means. Okay. The nib out of the, you can push the nib out of the hole? Huh. Not sure what that means. But anyway, so it's been an hour and 30 minutes, and we're starting to lose people, and we're starting to lose me because I'm starting to fade off. So I need to do some school stuff yet. I need to put some soup into the crock pot so I have something to eat at lunch all week. So time to close this thing up. So I want to thank everybody for watching, and I'm going to try to do at least one live stream a month, and hopefully soon we'll have a live stream maybe with a guest, and maybe we'll look at some pens, and we'll try not to disconnect the camera next time. So I want to thank everybody for watching. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Now we got to end this.